too many distractions. We can just do it live. What happened? There it is. Do it wrong. Zelda. The legend continues. There it is. Eric, what's up, man? Storyboard connection. Welcome to the stream. Chill with me and or ignore. Listen to music. I'll be rambling. There's no obligation. But if this is your first time, I'll do a little catch you up. How do you get the music on? There are several... well, this is just system music playing via Spotify. So in order for this not to get like taken down, DMCA or whatever, like automatically, because Twitch will scan for it, it'll be like, oh, this is copyrighted music or whatever. You basically have to stream music that people can't own the copyright to, because this is Nintendo's music and someone covering it doesn't own the copyright to Nintendo's music. So though this is on Spotify, there's just so much legal morass, perhaps, but the but it isn't owned by like Sony. It's not owned by... I believe what happened is the creators of this music in particular, because it's video game tribute music, gave it the what is it, copyright 0, the Creative Commons. Basically say this is for everybody and it's not for profit. So it's not for profit, it can't be monetized the same way, it's just for people's enjoyment, and there's no legal problem with me. Sort of like, I don't own Zelda and I'm working on this. This is essentially a lo-fi playlist. Can we stream together? Is that... No, but we can another time. But this will be a... frankly, I've never tried that. I don't know what will happen if we do. But, I mean, you could... If you're streaming, you could stream my stream onto your stream, but another time, let's do a collaboration. Let's do it when we, like, have something cooking, you know what I mean? I know you were messaging me for sure earlier, and yeah, totally, I'm open to it. We gotta show people how relevant our craft is, man. And what I'm doing here is not strictly storyboarding. This is more like concept art, portfolio stuff. You know, AI does a lot of shit, but it actually doesn't do a lot, and people who assume it just does everything that it needs to replace an artist are like sorely mistaken. It doesn't replace storyboards. Might replace other things, but not storyboards. So or key art. Basically the stuff that we do is not, you know, they may try to replace us, but that they'll fail, and then they'll have to come crawling back. It's just a matter of time. So anyway, what this is this is just spec art. Nintendo announced their Zelda movie, and so I'm like, fuck, I work on video game trailers, I work on storyboards, and, you know, I've got ideas I can put to paper and make a portfolio with, and maybe if ever they're staffing up and it crosses the path of someone who is looking for artistic talent, this might help. And that would be a cool thing to do, is check one off my bucket list. Get on a Zelda project, right? If you're even familiar with the, you know, you're my age, but, you know, not everybody plays Zelda. So while these are laid out like a storyboard sequence, they are in fact unrelated in sequence. They're just moments from a theoretical possible Zelda movie I've got in my head. And here I'm just trying to do demonstrating some skills, like how I can take a old sketch, like this is a bad guy in the original Zelda game. Did you do an episode on how you roughed Zelda out? Like the Zelda sketches? Yeah, the I mean, I just did one where I roughed out this Zelda a little bit ago. And yeah, all this has been done live streamed. So like the rough sketches here, all the way at the bottom here. You know, we can look at, gosh, it's like impossible to turn off all these layers, but let's see if it happens. Yeah, you can see the some of these original rough sketches, and I drew all these live. Yeah, the underdrawing, these were drawn live via Twitch. They're just, you got to scroll back down in the video on demand stuff on my Twitch stream. Yeah, it's there. I mean, like, at that point, like, nobody was watching, and I'm just getting drunk in front of camera. But, yeah, check it out. It's fun, and, like, some of these are, well, I mean, I wouldn't have posted them if I thought they sucked, but some are better than others, but, you know, I was like, that's part of the process, too, is sometimes you draw something that sucks, and you try again the next day, so these are all the rough drawings, and, I'm like, yeah, some of this shit's pretty cool. You draw You too can draw drunk if you practice every day with real diligence. You can, I definitely, you know, will pop an edible and get a good amount of work done, kind of thing. It's not bad for, like, you know, the hard part is, like, if you're in the habit and then you're like, oh, now I gotta work, and you're like, but I really want to also, you know, get high or get drunk or something like that. These are not best practices, obviously, but, you know, you might just do better if you remove that distraction and then get right back to work, you know? No one says you have to get super drunk and high. You can just get a little bit drunk and high and get back to it. And, yeah, we don't lecture from on high on this stream. Or maybe we do on high. But there's listen, there's a long-standing human tradition of getting a little wasted and then playing around with our art materials. And who are we to break with thousands of years of human tradition? So what I'm trying to do right now is give some kind of, yeah, I do painter. I'm that guy. One of like 3. Anybody who I know who like even knows what painter is, I'm like, oh boy. You can sit back, you can engage. I may not engage too much back if I'm trying to focus or anything like that, but I don't, you know, this isn't precious. It's as much a social stream as anything. I hope the audio and everything is coming through. I mean, I did have to, like, when I hooked up all this stuff, like, so if you go back and you watch those first series where I was doing, yeah, well, now it's good. The original stuff, I didn't know what I was doing, and I was like trying to use different microphones, and everything sucked, and sometimes there was no audio at all. And sometimes I used music that was copywritten, so they had to they just totally muted the entire section, and none of that was great. So, you know, it's a lot of trial and error. But I started doing this in like November, I think, like I said. So, and what am I doing? Okay, wrong tool. No worries. So obviously, got a little friend from Real World Storyboarding checking out the feed, which is great. Eric's a super talented storyboard artist from my guild, from my union. We've crossed paths at least once in the real world, albeit years ago, pre-COVID. We'll kind of go our own way. But he's been doing his own streams. And I'm now just have enough self-confidence to start disclosing that I'm streaming at all in general. And all that is more because, you know, when work isn't that busy, it can be frustrating. You can get into all sorts of bad habits. And the worst habit is just getting lazy with not even drawing at all. Because at that point, you're just atrophying your skills. And it's not going to be, that's not going to go well for when work actually does come back. And you're like, great, I'm excited, but fuck, I forgot to be studying in the off season. Yeah, I've got this weird sense that these Vires are sort of fudgy pat vampire pigs or wombat type deals. And it's like, what are the weird forms that can come out? Like here I've got like really low, maybe those are too low, the way the wings are setting. The back of this creature, and move those up just a bit more. Can feel a little bit more like it's relating to the body. So we see the front of this guy, and then his little buddies over here. Oh, I did it again where the, you know what happens is the painter and Wacom will retain the settings of the pen you use last for the pen that you used. So if I switched, because the other day I couldn't find this pen, I switched to a different stylus and then adjusted my settings. So you can see right here, I've made the mistake of drawing with a thicker pen or a different setting than the one I was using over here. Yet I think that's okay. Maybe this can be like one of those sort of staggered in depth kind of like Link and this guy are kind of in focus, but over here things are less in focus. You can always retroactively justify a mistake. Feel like I'm hearing things. Sort of similar to here. They're both looking and not seeing. Where is that fucking guy? Both of these guys have the classic. Hey, Ben. Ben, I won't out your last name unless you. We don't need to, but feel like I might have accidentally done that with Eric. But you never know on the interwebs where it's safe. Thanks for catching the stream. How are you today? Good. Do you ever have you heard of New Masters Academy? I'm not any affiliate with them at all, but they do good, or seemingly are trying to translate the atelier sort of experience into a digital sort of realm. And I got, I guess for like $200 I signed up for like a student discount of something, but I haven't had a lot of time to look into to like all their different course offerings, but I've seen that they've had some good courses from some teachers that I admire. And today, for instance, they had a life drawing session with Glenn Vilppu, and I'm not sure necessarily if you know who that is, but if you've heard of Glenn Vilppu, say yay, and if not, say nay. Nay, that's a shame. This is the next guy in your on your to study list. This is important. Let's see here. So, because I think you're ready. I've slow your roll. I'm over here. I'm getting it all ready right here. Here we go. So one thing to know about Glenn Vilppu, and this may have changed because technology improves, but he has a cochlear implant from having gone stone deaf a long time ago. However, he was a prolific lecturer, and he draws with all the fluency of. You should know that when he draws, like his figure invention is when when I was young, I didn't believe that people could do figure invention as if do you just see the body in your head and know how to draw it. I don't even know if this is it. Gesture study based off Glenn Vilppu's drawing manual. Let's see here. I want that. See, that's the problem with the internet. Where's the actual Glenn Vilppu stuff? This looks like his stuff, but he's a great demonstrator of these great classical techniques that you don't so much see at other life drawing schools. And I more or less integrated his approach into. I feel like I infused my previous drawing approaches with this, and I had great results in finally understanding how to draw dynamic figures. And there are many books on the subject that are good about figure invention, but he sort of demonstrates how to do it really well. And I believe he would be worth your time to study a little bit more in depth. And yeah, and he has a background also in classical animation, for instance. And there was a time when he was not just my teacher, but my mother's teacher, well before I was born. So he's been in the game a long time. He probably won't be around much longer, just based on the statistics of age. But if you can catch any of his demos or hear a lecture, he's the real deal. He knows what he's talking about when it comes with figure drawing. And I don't know if you have the exact sense that I do, but a lot of this is not to denigrate anything from like Concept Art Academy, but there are drawing styles that have become so popular, like figure drawing styles and quick sketch styles that have become so popular that they are ubiquitous and it feels very one note. Also, they have a strict reliance on the model being in front of you. And this is not made up shit. Like, I've seen Glenn Villepeu draw amazing figures like the ones we're looking here with no model reference, just live demo, like, here's how you do it kind of a thing. That's what pushed me into the edge. I'm like, okay, what this guy is doing, I need to actually understand, because, you know, you realize like lots of people can develop their artistic talent to the ability where they're like, they can do a really great job of artistically rendering the figure that's in front of them, but then you take the figure away and they don't know. It's like you baby lost their pacifier. You're not that's like, it's pejorative or whatever, but but you know, they make up a bunch of excuses like, all of a sudden I don't know how to draw, as if like that. The figure invention and drapery, like how clothes look when, like, you know, because this is like how to draw naked people, and then for the most part people wear clothes, right? So yeah, I'd say perspective, figure invention, drapery, gosh, what else? The composition, perspective, a little both, and then just mileage with all that stuff. All right, that's my plug. That's my plug for the Glenn Villepeu had an event today at 10 a.m. and I really wanted to check it out. And I didn't, because I was distracted by the storyboarding Discord, of which Ben is familiar, and I just love drawing the Zelda stuff right now. So I'm expecting notes at 3:30 on a project. We'll see. They may come in sooner. They may not come in at all. And today will be a unpredictable day. So that's what's going on. What do you have on deck today, Ben? You've got your day job, right? Yes? Or are you taking a break right now? I have no idea if this will look quite right as a back ass / heel of this big fat demon guy. Haircuts. I need one too, as you can see. Yeah, you have that that professional, smart look, and you can't let that get too unruly. Until you have small children, and then you can just say, "Fuck it, I've got small children." Nobody can. That's like the perfect excuse. Oh, you're late. Oh, I got kids. Oh. Here, good for you, you know. Thanks for making time for us. Any other circumstance, they'd be like, what? Yeah. Okay. So this leg is projecting forward in space. And now we need a convincing sense of this leg projecting towards camera. Which means we need some of these overlaps and this, whereas this butt cheek looks stretched out, moving away from us. this one has to feel like it's bending backwards a bit. What is the deal with the 405 today? You may have been joking, but my wife's coworker called her this morning and said, just so you know, you might want to leave right now because the 405 is fucked right now. And yeah, we don't have weather in LA. We have traffic though. It's much worse. What is the what's been my experience or was before COVID sort of negated the entire experience of working on site, but artist hours were, depending on the studio, closer to like 10 to 7, and it wasn't uncommon to not even get started. Like, to roll up around 11 a.m. wasn't even that big of a deal. And you end up sort of like lingering. You kind of finish your workday around closer to 8 o'clock. Sometimes they even buy you dinner. They're like, oh, thanks for staying late. It's like, oh, it's the least I could do for showing up 2 hours late or whatever. But there used to be a lot of leeway for what you could get away with if you were going on site. Everybody, understood the traffic made it hard. You still had to try to make your deadline first and foremost, but yeah. Okay, this doesn't feel like too unclear to me, where we've got not sure if you can see it, but lunging forward on the right leg while the back leg is extended behind. Sort of. Fat, assless bodies. Primary drawing brush, also elliptical. Let's see what it says. My primary drawing brush is highly specialized. Let's see here. It is elliptical, but what I've done is I've smashed it so flat that it's more or less a, like, if I tilt it on its side and make a stroke, it looks like that. So you can see that it does taper at the edges and it's thick in the middle. If I go like, it'll look like that. It's obviously it's very sensitive to like any wavering, so that's where you get all these gaps. If I hold it straight up, same pencil makes a perfect line. And then, of course, all the variations in between. And depending on pressure, I can make a gradient. And then I can also build up layers of tone using the blend mode of multiply. It also can blend if I tweak one of these settings a little bit more. I did, I took one of the Painter stock brushes and like pushed it and 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 pushed it like over the years until it was like, now it's like this lightsaber that is more or less an extension of my consciousness. And it's extremely versatile and also unique to me, and therefore it helps sort of make the in a way it sort of is its own signature on the work that I do. And for that reason, I try not to, I don't disseminate it, really. I mean, it's not like I've never shared my brushes, but in this case, and especially in, like, this strange AI world we live in, where styles are imitated and copied and put forth fraudulently, it's, until some of that dust settles, I'm just gonna kind of keep it a little close to the chest. But I don't mind discussing it. And the other thing is, nobody uses Painter, so it's like, hey, I could give it to you, but you'd have to use Painter, which is like the world's worst drawing program. It's not the worst. It's just, it's very frustrating to me that they haven't fixed the same bugs that have existed for dozens and dozens of years. Okay. It's not Infinite Painter. Infinite Painter is a, it's like a, well, I believe that's like an iOS version, or like a mobile version that is, it's basically unrelated to, like, it's a mobile spiritual successor to Painter, but actually, Infinite Painter, I haven't checked out in years. Probably what they're doing is they're putting all the resources they would be putting in the desktop version of Painter and putting it into Infinite Painter. So you actually might check out Infinite Painter, but not with my endorsement, but just out of curiosity, because Painter, for all of its faults, in my opinion, still has a better brush engine than Photoshop and Procreate. Procreate has all the metrics as far as, like, drawing goes. Like, I recommend people get into that. The problem is right now it's not ready for enterprise. Like, it doesn't interface with pipelines well, in my opinion, or in a way that is speedy. So I mean, I should look in Infinite Painter, because maybe there's a way for me to import my Painter brush into Infinite Painter, and then I can do the same thing then on an iPad. That would be cool. There's a lovely... Hold on, I'm going to crack the window a little bit. I've got my cleaning lady over, and she's mopping floors, and it's... gonna be smart for me to... Let me even open these drapes. I'm back. Ben, have you checked out any of these streams before? Do you want the newbie tour, or you've been lurking and now you're chiming in? I guess I can draw some of these snakes. That would be smart. You've lurked. Okay. Have you seen me demo my little, I don't even know what I call it. It's not something I invented. I saw other artists doing it, particularly on Twitter, and recognized its potential to get, with some adjustments, applied to storyboards. And I'll just do a little demo of it here, because I think it applies and is not a bad teaching moment for the audience. And just off the top of my head, I might just call it like shadow spotting or something like that. But essentially, if this is... Here's the subject. Here's the arm. This is the upper plane of the arm. This is the lower plane of the arm. Every form on the body has something that faces up and something that faces down. And essentially what we do is we go through rather methodically and just sort of underscore some of, maybe not too heavy-handedly, but where we have directly underlying, see the bottom of this knee qualifies. Where it sort of transitions to the side, we do a little bit of it. Here, you can get a little bit of that. And especially in areas where it helps show an overlap. Top of this back, none of that is lower facing, so none of that gets it. But we can get away with some of it here, where it starts to transition and makes a overlap. Now these bat wings are not very substantial, meaning they're not super thick, and we don't want to underscore them too much. But here where it feels like it's like the bottom of the arch, we can give it the most. What this does is it helps the drawing to read at a distance far more effectively than just simply sketchy line art. So this is all underplane. This one not so much, but definitely here. Overlap. Overlap. You may, when you get into like storyboarding, there are some directors that will say, I don't want any shading in my storyboard. You know, they'll make I've had this request before. And in that moment, I was able to find an application for this technique. It went over very well, and I can show what that looked like later on. But when a director says like, hey, I don't want any shading, you know, that could be for any number of reasons. Maybe they think artists don't know how to shade, and, you know, for some of us that might be true. Like shading, you do it wrong, it's not going to make your drawing look better. You don't necessarily want to have a heavy hand with that stuff. Now, I've seen your figure drawings and your art, and I know that you know how to properly apply halftones and things like that. Like you've put in the work. But what an unreasonable request to get something like that. Well, a technique like this, because you already know the other, you know, you understand planes and tones and composition. You can see I'm like skipping, like here no, but here yes, and here no, but here yes. And how it helps the form. And weirdly, I've decided it doesn't look good right underneath where the ground actually touches the thing, but it does look good off to the sides of the thing. So, do a little bit of that, a little bit of that. Just a touch. Here, like, now of course this is at a Dutch angle, but this leg is almost like straight vertical, right? Where we do it here is just at the bottom. Where you have that vertical opportunity, you just do it at the bottom one. Just like that little kiss at the bottom. Helping show the overlaps. And it just gives a stronger sense of depth. Things look organized. They look intentional. People resonate with that sense. It helps them feel at ease, like, yeah. I mean, I've had a good amount of, worked on a good amount of projects that have animated characters in them. If a project has a lot of animation in it, like goofy character, like this guy, he's not too far off from, like, if you've ever seen like those Mucinex commercials with those globby bodies that are goofy. And I've worked with, you know, productions that basically are, you know, in that space, so they need storyboards. So, you know, you're drawing and applying. It's almost like those fun Fantasia drawings. Have you heard of the artist, dead hundreds of years now, probably, Heinrich Clay? Heinrich Clay. He's famous in his time and favorite among figure artists now. Let me know if that rings a bell. And so, as by way of demonstration, here, let me turn off some of this old stuff. Okay. So if we zoom out, where can I find that bit of image I just drew? Here, I'm gonna save. Make sure I even have do my basic due diligence. Okay, where was this layer? Okay, here it is. So if you zoom out, you know, and this on your screen, you can barely see it all. But it helps. Well, I mean, maybe that's too zoomed out, but you can see that just that little bit almost feels like you've added shading, and it definitely adds clarity. And that's like the most important thing, I think, in storyboarding. Well, maybe not the most important, but the stuff needs to look good and understandable without any prior context, like in an instant. They have to, like, you know, the directors, producers, assistant, like first ADs and cinematographers, these people are prima donnas sometimes. They don't have any patience, and sometimes, you know, it's entirely possible that they got burned last time with a bad storyboard artist. It happens. And so you got to fight that reputation, the preceding reputation of the artists that came before you, who may have whiffed it, and maybe the job was unfairly hard or whatever, circumstances sucked, but like, you have to succeed where the other had failed, and you got to know all the tricks. And winning a person over via your superior artistic talents is the only option. You have to do it. So anyway, that's a little demo spiel there. And I kept it on a separate layer because it's not necessary. Like, I'll do lighting application later, and it's not necessarily like, this is fake lighting. It's almost like a relief sculpture. Like if you look at like the portrait of Abraham Lincoln on a penny, you know, you get a sense of shadows and stuff like that, but really it's these, like, the smallest amount of Z space is actually being used to indicate that. And that's sort of what the intention is here. All right, so there's a little demo doodle there. Let's look up what the snakes look like. And they are just snakes, yeah, this is them. Quick little screeny shot. Here we go. It's like, okay, that's just a snake. my favorite Zelda game. Well, despite the fact that I'm like heavily entrenched creatively for this project in the original Zelda game, at least as far as the bad guys go, some of these dungeon bosses essentially. My favorite is A Link to the Past. Definitely A Link to the Past. After that, I really put in a lot of mileage with Link's Awakening, the Zelda Game Boy, the first Zelda Game Boy game. I also enjoyed, I don't know, it's universally panned, but I liked Phantom Hourglass on the Nintendo DS. I thought that was a cool little device back in the day. Zelda 2 is like the hardest game ever. The original Zelda I had when I was like 5 years old. What did I do with it? Here it is. When I was like 6 and 7, I was playing Zelda. My dad made me this Zelda shield, and there used to be an edge of tape and stuff around it, but it had this handle on the back. It's just made of plywood or whatever this is, and obviously the handle broke off. It's like rotting, in my hands. I could probably snap it with my breath, but that was I had he also made me a little wooden sword. It's hard to say, that sword is long gone, but I used to be able, I was the only kid I knew who even knew what Zelda was. I was certainly the only kid in the world with actual like Zelda toys. Now you can get that stuff anywhere, just order it on Amazon, but yeah. Ocarina of Time, amazing, but it's never as sweet as those first experiences, Ocarina of Time, I did manage to play all the way through, and that was good. And I finished Twilight Princess too. I may have been a little more stoned than I should have been for that one. I actually don't remember Twilight Princess very well. Ocarina is a great Zelda game to start with, man. That is a good one. And no, I would, every once in a while I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna download emulators and play a bunch of stuff, but it can only last so long before like my kid is screaming, I gotta go make some nuggets or something like that. There's never any time. All right, I'm gonna flip this guy around, and we're just gonna draw a couple snakes. That should be simple, but there's always something to learn. This snake design is an insult to snakes. Having owned a snake in my life, a pet snake a long time ago, it's not gonna do. So we're gonna make him more like cobras, and I've sort of indicated that here with a little bit of fanned out. Indicating a little bit of this fanned out body form. This guy we can see in profile. Yeah, I don't mind a little bit of this. Although we should probably get a little bit thicker. And you can see that I'm undoing my strokes constantly, especially if it's something I'm not entirely sure if I'm drawing right in the form. And these are not necessarily techniques I would use in a storyboard. These are slower. This is a slower way of doing things. The other thing is these are 2K images, each one of these boxes. That's twice the resolution I would draw on for a storyboard. My typical storyboard I turn around for professional work is 1280 by 720. That's a... That like... This little... Well, whatever. It's like tiny on my screen compared to... DPI on Storyboard's 1280 by 720 on that's a 16 by 9 aspect ratio. That's and that's for several reasons, but the biggest reason is when I do my boards, and I've posted this on the Discord, I use that template that I posted so that I can see basically, you know, a nice sequence all at once. And if you're using too high of a DPI, that method breaks down. Like the amount of RAM needed to display so many images simultaneously is too high, even on a good system. Right now, I recently updated my system to, what's up, Mac Studio, or I don't know if it's Mac Studio Pro, but it's at least a Mac Studio. But I couldn't hack that on my Mac Mini. I had to use smaller DPIs. I'm happy now to see that, yeah, we've got the ability to, you know, have higher resolution images, but it still comes at a cost where you see more space in between the lines, so you fill that with detail. It's like an unconscious thing. But if you have, I've got my gardener charging back and forth, so I'm sure you guys can hear that. I'm going to close the door. Alright, so that's that. Yep, there's going to be background noise today. That's okay. A little indication of some sort of pattern. Whatever. That looks like a dangerous snake. These guys over here, and if you look like zoomed out, like these guys over here don't need anything more than just this kind of application. So if you've played Ocarina of Time, you might be familiar with like this kind of detail in the background. So I believe there are a few instances that have eyes like that. In this project, we're a little series agnostic. This is, yes, the Sheikah symbol. Now, so we've heard of, in the real world with humans, we know that there are snakes where, right? Aren't there hooded cobra? Cobra. Doesn't it look like they have an eye on the back? Yeah, okay, there's two eyes. So just to bring it over here. So this is part of like the crazy lore, is you get these hypnotic eyes on the back of a hooded cobra, right? Well, similarly but differently, what if the snakes here had the shake eye on the back? Not a bad idea, right? I just came up with that shit right now. And maybe they can also sort of run down the back. Yeah. That's Storycraft, baby. That shit's money, baby. Looking and finding these different justifications. And so one thing I'm going to draw later, but not now, is the giant... This shadow sort of indicates that near Link but unseen and casting a shadow is another snake and it's about to bite him. But that's a lighting effect. We're going to do that on another demo. So let me save here. Now it's 1:30. Let me check in with my little email sitch. There's out in the wild, there are whispers of work. Nibbles and whispers is about all I can see. So it's still rough out there. It's rough, but let me just check in here. Make sure no one's trying to say, Max, we need you now. Nothing yet. That's okay. That'll change at 2:45 when my wife arrives home with my kiddo from school. But we got some time. This could be a long stream. All right, Ben, if you're still there, do you think I should draw this fun fairy, or should I go back and start to add some background detail to the first sketch? So we can either stick with like a fun fairy design, and this is based off the fairy of, her name was Sprite from the original series. All for the fairy, baby. Yeah. Yeah, we don't need the, you know, we don't need too much detail here, but, all right, I'm going to do show two things in a second. All right, this was the original cartoon introduction to the Zelda fairy, and perhaps I was alone, but you know, I was a fan. And then I see stuff like this. It came from this article, Zelda's Study, the many mistakes of the Legend of Zelda TV series. And stuff like this I hate. Yeah, the Legend of Zelda TV series sure was a big mistake. Anyway. Well, it had its many detractors. I'm not one of them. I'm a fan. And then this is basically, we have a simple fairy with a little bit of sex appeal. And we don't need to adhere too closely to anything. But the theme of this image is that we have a juxtaposition of Link, who is like nearly dead or dying. I think I've got his forearm too long here. Just note to self. Fix forearm. There you go. Note to me in the future. But while Link is nearly dead, he's got enough strength left to uncork a fairy in a bottle. And the fairy is not altogether too rushed about the situation. Just taking a moment to stretch before she saves his life, so a little bit of fun juxtaposition there. Let's see if I can do it some justice. Now I think a little bit of a softer touch is applicable. I don't want to lose all her detail. Switch to a different pen size. Doesn't feel like that's even getting enough. That's too much. Here, let's start fat and broad and then move our way down. Okay. So, some things we definitely want to make sure are clear. We can underscore that. I want it very clear that her head is tilted away from camera. I want it very clear that this arm is coming closer to camera up until the point that it gets to this elbow. Then it bends and goes back. Similarly, but opposite, I want the far arm to go away from camera, then bend and come back to camera. And I want that to be clear in the drawing. And then the hands will do what the hands will do. But there will be this kind of crossover that is implied in Z space. And if this is done right, it will look, as it theoretically should, that this hand is actually closer to camera than this one. So we'll see if we can achieve that. I think if this leg is closer to us and it's tilted up, then we've decided that this side of her body is pinching, which means the other side of her body is extending. So on the opposite far side of her body, we've got this extension. That's mostly obscured by the bottle and the far side of her body. Squash and stretch. These animation principles are not just animation, it's life. That's like how every organism moves. Like, even if it's just on a microcellular level, every little sperm that is doing is whatever it's doing has this sort of squishy back and forth-ness. If you look up Glenn Vilppu, this is what he's talking about. Emphasizing with intentionality that specifically. You will definitely hear what I'm telling you now echoed in any of his lectures because it's fundamental to his approach. So if this is squishing here, we're going to draw that. It's going to be felt here. That means that the far shoulder is higher than the closer shoulder. What does that mean for this leg? Well, at this point, this leg is sort of free to do what it wants because I just sort of have it in the air. If we want to, we can express a little sexualness by having this knee coming towards camera. Not as if to indicate she's flashing him, but modesty might prevent such a thing. And if we wanted modesty to win out, we can have it go the other way, where it looks like she could, therefore, still in a sexual way, be rubbing against her other leg. And that could be good too. I actually like that she might have her leg sort of resting against her other leg. Like that. So with all these different intentions, we have a roadmap for the choices that we're gonna make. Using these cross-form contours to sort of keep us on track with the perspective of these limbs. Because without it, and in this original rough sketch, if you're just tracing, you're going to trace it flat. And you're not going to know that you're going to lose the intention. Because there was no intention. You just saw a contour, and not you, but we, and you know, the unpracticed in this art might err. Now, one thing that's true is these arms are way too long. I like that sense of sketch, or the sense of stretch. But that's gonna have to get toned down a bit. Because it's unrealistic for her design. I don't want her to have longer arms than she has legs, for instance. Take what's here. Shrink it down a bit. Hey man, welcome back. I think what else I want to be intentional here. Yeah, Ben joined in. I think I want a little bit of a head tilt down. Nah. Go back to the way it was. It doesn't need to be too tilted down. Got it. Gross, but I killed a bug. Look at the bug I squished. So Eric, have you been busy with work? I was actually just telling Ben that it's where there are whispers of need and rumors of work, it's actually fairly dry in terms of where I might expect to be on a typical year at this time. This is supposed to be like kicking off the busy season, so this is little not good. Little not good. 4 calls, yes. Oh, good for you. Out of nowhere. Okay. Prior to 4 calls yesterday, were there 4 calls the day before and the day before? Or was it like, what? And you don't have to disclose. I'm on a feature right now. Excellent. But... ... Day play. Yeah, everything I'm on right now. So it's like checking the marks of all the worst possible scenarios for the work that you could get. It's basically it. And the director's a psycho, right? And oh, in the UK, does that mean are you working on UK time? Because that's drastically different than Los Angeles Pacific Standard Time. I mean, I day play is not like, I mean, for me it's like you know, I'll work hourly if there's nothing going on, but like today. People look down on like hourly and day stuff, but you can bleed a client death from 1,000 cuts just as well as anything else. You know, that's how they get those video game guys, right? Microtransactions. You're like, oh, yeah, yeah. Or it's like death from 1,000 cuts is the phrase, I think. But you know, or you know, it's like, hey man, hunter gatherers, whatever the analogy, while, you know, if some are like, oh, I want to land that woolly mammoth, or I want to land that whale. It's like, all right, homie, well, I'll be over here eating rabbits, like plenty of them, or, you know, whatever the appropriate small game is. Varmint. Yeah, it just kind of feels like a fairy is gonna wear a skimpy outfit made of like leaves and rags. You know, maybe something like that. Ooh. You know what was a sexy fairy looking thing? Oh yeah. There's we don't objectify anybody, but there's some appeal to the Fern Gully girl. Okay, she had the one strap, bare midriff. Definitely inspired me to recycle. And in the scale of the drawing, most of her details are just going to get completely lost. So it's really not that important to make sure that everything is perfect. She can have this J. Scott Campbell type body. Maybe she can have some sort of armbands that can help our cause in clearly communicating which limb is going in which direction. This hand did not come out right. Coming towards camera. Maybe something to be finessed later, but that kind of does it. Knees and their many bendy intricacies are not necessarily my forte. But legs and bodies come in all different shapes and sizes, and it doesn't look too far off yet. Now I wonder, is this a skirt? Should kind of be like that, so that when the other leg comes down, let's draw some fairy wings. I think I've accomplished what I was discussing, where I'd have the arms sort of crossing over a little bit in the back like that. But now I'm missing the stretch, like the vulnerability of that stretch. You know, not a bad demo for what it was, but let's go back and try again. There's like a sensual vulnerability. Even if I don't want the arms to be as long as this, but fully extended. What does that look like? Because there's something about a lot of like demonstrating the tendency for, women have they're more flexible in their joints. They've got more flexible ligaments. They have this tendency to hyperextend even accidentally. Sometimes to the point of injury. I like that better. Something more substantial there. It almost feels like there's too much bend in this elbow. Something too similar here in the arms. Compositionally, it's a problem if too many things look like they're occupying... If things look like they're doing the same thing, the same way, at the same distance, it'll bug us. So making a conscious choice... but here's where I've possibly erred, because we had made the choice earlier to have the arm on the far side being the stretchier one, like the more stretched out version. This looks fine. Let's see here. And then, but it's not like if I switched. Let's save. Try something slightly different. Okay. Now the far arm is the extended one. And the closer one now, of course, the hands are in the wrong direction. See you, Eric. Later. Thanks for stopping in. Change. Lolly wobbles. Thanks for wobbling in. You may have been lurking. You have the stench of a lurker. No, I'm just kidding. I believe you may have sensed that I was having a discussion with my buddy. My buddy whom I barely know, Eric, but you know, we have the same profession. All right, here's the ultimate moral dilemma. My wife is calling me. Probably unnecessarily. Let me text her and let her know that I'm streaming. I don't wish to be overly bothered. And let's see here. If she calls me back 3 times, that means it's an emergency and she needs my help. Okay. Okay. My wife is battling LA traffic. She may need me to go pick up the kiddo. That's not a determined thing yet. We will see what she says soon. Okay. This has, I think, an agreeable result where what bending there is constrained to the pinch side of her body, and the elongation is on the far side of her body. The other option we could do is switch it around so that the closer side of her body was more extended and the farther side of the body was doing the pinching. But at this point, I'm feeling a little lazy about that. We'll see. We can sleep on it. I won't have... If so, it's nothing I'd be able to fix for the duration of this stream anyway. Because I should probably actually just use this as the best opportunity for me to call my wife back and therefore end the stream. Because we did a good job. Look at all this. Maybe I can loosely indicate some wings here. Let's do that. These wings are really just going to be placeholders. Because what makes sense, actually, given that she's a magical creature, is to render them not with line so much as light. And that approach will be something we'll figure out together, I guess, because I'm not sure exactly what that entails. I have an idea, but we're going to have some translucency, we're going to have some glowing effects. None of that is on the menu for a while. Okay, that looks pretty good. Alrighty, I'm gonna do my wife a solid and help her out, my kid, and that means we're gonna say goodnight today. So thank you. If there are lurkers, other lurkers, but Lolly, thank you for coming in. Always love to have your endorsement. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Eric, if you check in later. And anybody else who happen to watch. I do appreciate it. And we'll do more Zelda next time. All right. Adios.